Malcolm Reed had not planned on raising his voice that morning, but Blake Harrington's bark cut across the marble-floored showroom like a whip. "Sir, whatever you're selling, we're not buying. Either leave now, or I'll have security escort you to the curb." Every diamond-lit display in the Fifth Avenue flagship of Obsidian Fine Jewelry seemed to flicker at the words. Customers looked up from velvet trays. An elderly tourist couple froze mid-selfie beneath the crystal chandelier. Malcolm, tall, impeccably pressed charcoal suit, dark brown skin glowing beneath the showroom's track lights, felt the weight of 24 eyes settle on him. He answered Blake with a level stare, the kind that made lesser men stumble over apologies. But Blake, fair-haired, pale as alabaster, and buoyed by a lifetime of unchecked privilege, only folded his arms tighter. "I warned you," Blake said, pulling a slim phone from his breast pocket. "Simone," he called toward the security podium. "Remove this gentleman before he does something we all regret." Simone Brooks, a broad-shouldered black woman whose NYPD past lingered in her posture, hesitated, confusion etching lines across her brow. She knew Malcolm's face, though she could not quite place it. Malcolm inhaled once, steady and slow, until the tremor in his knuckles disappeared. "By all means," he said, voice velvet soft, "make your call. Just allow me to place one of my own." None of them knew what that invitation would cost Blake Harrington. 3 hours earlier, Malcolm's day had begun in the same Spartan Harlem brownstone he kept despite net worth lists that measured wealth in the 9-figure stratosphere. At 4:55 a.m., his battered alarm clock, original to the tiny dorm he once shared at Howard, rang. Malcolm stretched, said a silent thank you for breath and opportunity, then reached to the nightstand for an object worth less than $10. A braided leather bracelet, edges frayed where years of wear had rubbed them raw. He slipped it over his wrist, as he had every sunrise since his mother gave it to him the afternoon she pawned her wedding band so Malcolm could buy a second-hand jeweler's loop. The ritual reminded him what mattered. Integrity outlasted gold. In the driveway waited the same 2005 Toyota Camry he purchased the month Obsidian first posted a profit. The sedan's faded paint drew amused glances whenever it nosed between Bentleys and Maybachs outside his stores, but Malcolm refused to trade it in. "Every scratch is a semester of ramen," he liked to joke. "I won't erase my education." Each day he chose one of Obsidian's 53 locations to visit unannounced. He did it not to police staff, but to witness how strangers were treated when no one thought the owner might be looking. That Friday he steered south across the Harlem River, tires humming down FDR Drive toward Midtown. The Fifth Avenue flagship, 10,000 square feet of backlit onyx, brushed brass, and hand-blown glass, was the crown jewel of his $210 million empire, and Blake Harrington managed it. Blake's resume dazzled. Wharton MBA, internships on Bond Street and Place Vendôme, a surname whispered at country club brunches. 2 quarters earlier he'd replaced a beloved veteran manager who retired to care for her ailing wife. In interviews Blake sounded visionary. He spoke of modernizing the brand, elevating clientele, and driving average ticket price north of $250,000. But Malcolm, sitting across the polished conference table at the final interview, noticed something colder in Blake's eyes, a pleasure in gatekeeping. Still, Malcolm believed in measured chance. He hired Blake, paired him with assistant manager Karina Lopez, and watched. The store's numbers climbed, social media photos sparkled, but frontline exit interviews hinted at tension. A sales associate of Dominican heritage mentioned being steered off the floor when high-net-worth clients entered. A black temp cashier confessed she felt invisible. Malcolm scheduled his surprise Fifth Avenue visit for the first week of December, when holiday crowds surged and true colors often bled through retail smiles. When Malcolm entered, the first thing he noticed was a platinum cufflink display misaligned by precisely 3 degrees. He filed the detail away, hands still deep in overcoat pockets. He drifted toward the store's showstopper, the Nebula Suite, a $2.6 million ensemble of Argyle pink diamonds haloed in micropave platinum. Blake intercepted him halfway. "May I help you?" The question carried the condescension of someone who assumed the answer would be no. "I'd like to examine the Nebula Suite." Blake's eyebrows jumped. "Those pieces start at $2 million, he said, syllables sharpened like blades. "I'm aware," Malcolm replied. A pause. Blake assessed the Camry keys peeking from Malcolm's pocket, the modest wristband, the absence of a visible luxury watch. Decision reached, he pasted on a brittle smile. "Perhaps we explore something attainable?" From across the showroom Karina Lopez, petite, copper-skinned, quick-witted, winced. She'd seen Blake reroute guests before, but never with this brazen disdain. She darted forward. Sir, we actually have additional loose stones from the nebula parcel in our private salon, she began. Blake's head snapped around. Karina, catalog audits need finishing. Code 4, disappear. Karina flushed but obeyed. Undeterred, Malcolm gestured to the case. Open it, please. Reluctantly, Blake produced a passkey, but kept the lid angled so his own body shielded most of the jewels. Malcolm leaned closer, noting tiny variations in claw settings that only a master setter, or the suite's original designer, would spot. Brazilian origin on the center stone, he murmured. Blake blinked. Ah, yes. The outer halo prongs look over-tightened. Risk of stress fracture. Blake bristled. Our craftsmen are world-class. I never said otherwise. Malcolm straightened, patient. But tension mounts along platinum after repeated micro-welds. A hairline crack would cost you the sale. Blake opened his mouth for a retort, yet words stalled. How did this stranger know such minutiae? The door chimes saved him from answer. A hush swept through staff as Conrad and Eleanor Whitfield, pale, silver-haired aristocrats whose foundation's galas filled page 6, entered on a breeze of December air. Blake's posture transformed, shoulders squared, voice honeyed. Mr. Whitfield. Mrs. Whitfield. Champagne. Malcolm watched the performance. The way Blake fawned, ushered the couple to suede chairs, produced flutes and gold-rimmed porcelain. He noted, too, that the nebula case remained open and unguarded behind him. 15 minutes ticked by. Karina stood in the alcove pretending to rearrange inventory. Daniel Kim, a 24-year-old sales associate paying off student loans, shot Malcolm an apologetic glance from behind the register. At minute 16, Malcolm stepped forward. Excuse me, I'm still waiting to finalize the nebula purchase. Blake turned, annoyance breaking through the veneer. Sir, pieces of that magnitude require demonstration of funds. Wire confirmation, verifiable balance sheet, that sort of thing. Malcolm's gaze flicked to the Whitfields cradling a $400,000 Riviere necklace Blake had offered without so much as a credit check. Is that policy universal, Mr. Harrington? For clients I don't know? Absolutely. Malcolm's jaw tightened. Let me be plain. I intend to purchase the suite. I'll offer list price plus 10% for overnight modification of those prongs. The nearby shoppers let out collective inhales. Blake laughed, a sharp, mocking burst. 10%? You really are playing dress up. His voice dropped. I have an obligation to protect inventory from people who shouldn't handle it. Across the room, Simone straightened, instinctively shifting weight to the ball of her foot. Malcolm folded his hands. You intend to deny me service? I intend, Blake said loudly, so the Whitfields could appreciate his righteousness, to maintain this house's standards against fraud. And there it was, the ugly finality of prejudice laid naked beneath chandelier light. A hush fell so total the hum of the refrigerated diamond safe became audible. Very well, Malcolm said. He reached inside his jacket and withdrew a phone. You may call security. I will call my people. Simone approached cautiously. Mr. Harrington, he's done nothing wrong. You too, Simone? Blake barked. Obey. Simone's jaw flexed. She did not move. From behind the watch counter, Daniel Kim spoke up, voice trembling. Blake, maybe let corporate sort. Blake wheeled. Daniel, inventory the safe or go home without pay. Karina emerged from the alcove, brown eyes fierce. Blake, enough. Backroom. Now. Karina opened her mouth, shut it. Tears flashed, but did not fall. She retreated 2 steps. Malcolm finished dialing. Yes, Jarvis, he said into the phone. Assemble the full board via secure video. 15 minutes. Code Crimson. He paused, eyes never leaving Blake. Location, 5th Avenue flagship. Blake's expression flickered. Jarvis was the surname of Obsidian's chief legal officer, a man whose name decorated every non-disclosure agreement Blake had signed. Unease pricked his spine, but ego smothered caution. You're bluffing. A crisp British voice exploded from Malcolm's speaker. Very good, Mr. Reed. Channel secured. Standing by for directors. The blood drained from Blake's face. Reed? That name headlined every corporate memo, every trade journal profile on the meteoric rise of Obsidian's founder. Blake's eyes darted to the stranger's wrist where, beneath the frayed leather cord, a glimpse of ink emerged. An Obsidian Black Phoenix, the same symbol etched on Obsidian's historic first collection. Karina gasped. Daniel's phone slipped from numb fingers. Simone exhaled a low, oh hell. Malcolm ended the call, but kept the phone visible. Mr. Harrington, he said, voice now steel-wrapped in silk. Let us discuss standards. Blake's tongue stuck to the roof of his mouth. I didn't recognize. Obviously. Malcolm motioned to the nebulous suite, still exposed. You left $2.5 million vulnerable because bias clouded judgment. Unacceptable. Blake's knees weakened. Please, there's been a misunderstanding. Malcolm raised an eyebrow. Misunderstanding? You labeled me fraud, threatened ejection, humiliated staff who questioned you. The Whitfields rose, retreating a polite distance. Eleanor whispered, Conrad, I think we should go. Stay, Malcolm called gently. If you wish to see accountability in action. Staff and customers formed a silent semicircle. Malcolm turned to Karina first. Miss Lopez, you attempted to serve fairly, even at risk to your position. Commendable. Karina swallowed a sob. Thank you, sir. To Mr. Kim, Malcolm continued, courage matters. Policy will note your intervention. Daniel nodded, cheeks flushing with equal parts shame and gratitude. Miss Brooks. He faced Simone. You weighed an order against conscience. That is leadership. Finally, he regarded Blake, who seemed to shrink inside his bespoke jacket. Mr. Harrington, do you know Obsidian's founding principle? Blake's voice came out ragged. Inclusivity breeds loyalty. Yet you practice exclusion. Effective immediately, you are relieved. Blake wobbled. Sir, one lapse shouldn't end my career. My wife is pregnant. Our mortgage. Malcolm's face softened but did not relent. Prejudice is a choice. So are consequences. Simone stepped forward. Shall I escort him? Allow him the dignity of walking out. Blake gathered a single Mont-Blanc pen and the monogrammed nameplate from his desk. No one blocked his path, yet the distance to the door felt endless, lined with stairs that pierced deeper than daggers. As he pushed into winter sunlight, paparazzi lenses, alerted by someone's viral livestream, flashed. Inside, Malcolm lifted the nebulous suite with surgeon-steady care and set it on a velvet board. He beckoned Karina. You will manage this location now. First order of business. Recalibrate every diamond microscope. I detected variance. Karina's eyes rounded. Sir, manage? Your integrity qualifies you more than any resume. Daniel exhaled, relief rippling. Simone accepted a firm handshake and immediate pay raise. The announcement drew applause from customers who moments earlier had been passive observers. Malcolm addressed the room. To patrons who witnessed today's ugliness, know this is not the Obsidian standard. Judge us by how we amend failure. An older black tourist, snow-white beard, Chicago Cubs beanie, stepped forward. Son, he said, voice cracked with pride. You showed how a king carries himself. Malcolm smiled, humble. I'm only as noble as my team. Cameras recorded as he tapped his phone again. The wall-mounted OLED behind the register blinked alive, connecting to a virtual boardroom where 7 directors awaited. Malcolm summarized events with clinical precision, concluding, recommend termination for cause, effective immediately, with forfeiture of bonus. The motion carried unanimously. Only then did Malcolm turn to the Whitfields, who still hovered near the salon door. Mr. Whitfield, please forgive the disruption. Mrs. Whitfield, I believe that Riviere flatters you splendidly. If you choose to purchase, Karina will ensure flawless service. If you choose another house, I respect that as well. Eleanor's cheeks bloomed crimson. Mr. Reed, we'll be honored to remain your customers. Malcolm inclined his head, then strode to the misaligned cufflink display. With a forefinger, he nudged the stand 3 degrees clockwise until perfect symmetry returned. The gesture echoed in the collective imagination like a metaphor, order restored. But the narrative was not finished. As shoppers resumed browsing, a young man in a faded delivery uniform hovered near the entrance, holding a battered parcel. His brown skin and shy posture reminded Malcolm of himself 20 years earlier. Package for Mr. Harrington, the courier muttered. Malcolm accepted it on Blake's behalf. The return address read, Harvard Club, Boston. Inside, wrapped in tissue, lay a first edition manual on gemstone provenance, something Blake must have ordered to bolster expertise he never bothered to cultivate. Malcolm turned the volume in his hands. On impulse, he walked to Daniel. Study this, he said. Mastery earns trust faster than suits. Daniel's mouth fell open, but the inside corners of his eyes glimmered with determination. Outside, news trucks began to clog Fifth Avenue. The hashtag Cinezone store trended before noon. Footage of Malcolm's quiet decimation of discrimination retweeted by celebrities, activists, CEOs, and teenagers craving poetic justice. Analysts predicted a week of record e-commerce traffic for Obsidian. Malcolm cared more that aspiring entrepreneurs of color would see the clip and believe new possibilities. Nights settled over Manhattan, streets glittering like the diamonds Malcolm adored. Closing procedures hummed along under Karina's confident direction. Before stepping out, Malcolm took one last circuit. In the main case, the nebula suite gleamed, prongs now filed flush by an on-call bench jeweler he'd summoned hours earlier. He lifted the center pendant, cradling it against the leather bracelet on his wrist. He did not need more jewels, yet he whispered, "We'll find an owner worthy of your light." Behind him, Simone cleared her throat. "Store's secure, sir. Car is ready." Malcolm chuckled. "It's a Camry, Simone, not the presidential motorcade. Tonight it's presidential enough." He thanked her, slipped into his coat, and stepped onto the sidewalk where December air smelled of roasted chestnuts. Across the street, a jumbo LED billboard replayed a 10-second clip, Blake berating Malcolm, Malcolm calmly dialing his phone. The subtitle, "Obsidian CEO shuts down racism," scrolling beneath. Pedestrians cheered as it looped. Malcolm opened the Camry door and paused, gazing upward at the neon sky. Prejudice was not vanquished. Tomorrow some other Blake would sneer at someone else, but tonight integrity had won around. He settled behind the wheel, the frayed leather bracelet sliding against aged steering wheel leather, a perfect, imperfect symphony of past and present. Then he drove north toward the Harlem streets that first taught him diamonds are nothing without the light that strikes them, just as titles mean nothing without the character behind them. In the showroom, Karina dimmed the chandeliers, their reflections fading like daydreams on polished marble. Yet one gleam remained unextinguished, the afterglow of justice served not by shouting, but by the quiet authority of a man who knew exactly who he was and how far he'd come. And somewhere in a quiet apartment, Blake Harrington stared at a severance notice, a blank resume, and the face of his unborn child on an ultrasound printout taped to the fridge. Whether lessons took root in that fertile vulnerability would be a tale for another day. For now, Obsidian's Fifth Avenue flagship stood balanced, every display straight, every value reinforced, every employee reminded that the most precious thing sold beneath its roof was not diamond or platinum. It was respect.